Hi, welcome to the next episode of VCF Breakroom Chats. I'm Tako Inishi, Product Marketing Engineer at Broadcom, and I lead product marketing for VCF Automation, which is a core component of VCF that powers the private cloud self-service experience. And in this series, focused on VCF Automation, we bring VMware and industry experts to discuss VCF's cloud infrastructure automation capabilities. And in today's episode, we're diving into one of the most significant shifts in private cloud networking that we've seen in years. And so with VMware Cloud Foundation 9, we're fundamentally changing how IT teams deliver self-service networking to developers and application teams. And I'm joined today by two of my close automation and networking product managers who've been at the forefront of this innovation. And I've worked with these guys since the pre-pandemic days. All right, so let's start with introductions.
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm Arkady Shapiro, product manager for VCF Automation, leading networking and multi-tenancy for this part of VCF, where we're focused on really enabling the self-service infrastructure consumption with the right governance guardrails. So thanks for having us, Taka.
Yeah, and I'm Thomas Vigneron, so I'm product manager in charge of VCF networking, where we reimagined how networking is consumed in private cloud thanks to our new VPC approach. And good seeing you, Taka.
Yeah, likewise, gentlemen. All right, it feels like the old gang is back together, but in version 2.0. All right, so gentlemen, let's set the stage by first reviewing the old paradigm to provide some context for our listeners. So I'm sure that many of our customers, they've been used to using our old VRA, vRelays Automation, or VMware ARIA Automation, now called VCF Automation with NSX. They've been using it for years to automate network provisioning. Now, what was that experience like, and why did it need to evolve?
Thanks, Taka. Yeah, that's a great starting point, and I've been around here for some time since the early days of VRA and the start of our NSX integration support. And the classic VRA that we had plus the NSX integration served very well for folks who really wanted to get started with network automation. I remember dealing with customers who have never automated really anything at all, much less networking. And VRA really helped provide that abstraction, and which was very nice. Sometimes kind of not exposing all the NSX capabilities, but the reality is that it still requires significant expertise to set up and maintain. And what we saw that cloud admins really had to build complex templates and still coordinate closely with the network admins for many changes, right? So it worked, but at the same time, it was still a little bit infrastructure centric rather than DevOps centric, and not completely a true self-service cloud model of consumption that we were trying to go for.
Yeah, to elaborate further in the model from VRA, there was either the specific abstraction at the blueprint level with a limited set of options, or pre-configured networks outside of VRA just exposed by the networking team. And while this provided control, this limited a lot the capabilities from the cloud users from the cloud management platform itself. And plus, in addition to that, from NSX, tier 0, tier 1, the NSX constructs were quite NSX specific, which made them a bit harder to put in the hand of the cloud user directly or an application user.
Okay, so I guess, that's what led us to VCF 9 introducing virtual private clouds or VPCs as the new networking consumption model. Now, this sounds familiar from public cloud. Was that intentional?
Yeah, absolutely intentional. So we studied how developers work with both public and private cloud. We looked at the platform like AWS, GCP, Azure, and others. And then we realized there's some level of standardization. Like, for instance, VPC has a Wikipedia article. And we loved the fact that there is a simplification and there is a self-service by nature. And so with VCF, with VCF 9, the goal is to have a VPC as first-class citizen in the platform, not as NSX object, but as VCF objects, which are available and consumed throughout the platform, where they're available in vCenter, in VCF automation, in VCF operation, and also for Kubernetes consumption. What a VPC does is it creates an isolated networking environment within a tenant with its own subnets, NAT, firewall, and load balancing. And this allows the application team to deploy what they need and with the required networking and without having to know a lot about networking, without having to have a lot of networking expertise. So it's secure isolation with cloud simplicity. And this model allows us to have guardrails, make sure there's no impact on the neighbor or on some other deployed applications, but at the same time give flexibility and still specify what resources the cloud user leverage and where they connect.
So one thing to add is, I'd say what's transformative is how this integrates with VCF automation. Right? In VCF 9, VPCs are natively embedded in our automation workflows and also within our multi-tenancy framework. And what this means is application teams can now provision complete application stacks, including the networking layer, through either the curated self-service catalogs that an admin would typically set up, or a direct cloud portal UI or API, right? Much like what they're used to doing in a public cloud environment. In their own VPC, in their own sandbox, they define connectivity requirements, and really the platform handles the rest. And this is truly the networking as a service for the private cloud that we've been striving to build for many years.
Awesome. So this shift must change, how teams work together. Can you explain the new role model, especially, that distinction between the cloud admins and the networking admins?
Yeah, that's an important thing. So the VPC model, it allows for separation of responsibilities, where the networking admin has the control of outside connectivity of the cloud, either through an NSX gateway or even through simply a VLAN or a set of VLANs. And the cloud admin is able to allocate those resources to the different environments to enable self-service, which is done through VPCs, transit gateway connecting the VPCs, IP address blocks which have been provided, and the external connectivity. So the cloud admin will set the security boundaries and the resource quotas. And inside the tenant itself, project allow to sub-manage the resources for different teams or different lines of business and provide more specific access to more specific users. So the goal is that each layer has the right level of control without compromising security. And this same model that we have in VCF automation in a cloud multi-tenant fashion, we have it for the VI admin, which goes to the vCenter. So first they see the VPCs which have been created by automation, but they can also create their own VPCs, allocate subnet, enable DHCP, and connect workload, all through a simple guided interface within the guardrails which have been defined by the networking team.
Yeah, so for all the personas that we talk about, this is really liberating. And instead of waiting for networking tickets, we can deliver self-service infrastructure to developers while maintaining the governance for policies and quotas. The platform really enforces the guardrails, as we talked about, automatically, so developers can move fast without breaking things. And because we're leveraging the exact same constructs from NSX as opposed to creating abstractions like kind of automation platforms have done in the past, it makes troubleshooting a lot easier, especially in a large environment with multiple teams coming together.
Nice, nice. Okay, so then now let's talk about how this impacts modern applications in the context of networking. How does VCF 9 support cloud native application development, especially with this trend around Kubernetes and GitOps workflows?
Yeah, great, Taka. So this is where everything comes together. VCF 9 unifies the management of VMs and Kubernetes workloads on the same platform. For vSphere Supervisor and VMware Kubernetes servers, developers can now deploy containerized applications alongside traditional VMs, all consuming the same consistent VPC-based networking. And for GitOps workflows, we now support Argo CD natively in VCF 9, where the platform engineers can define infrastructure and applications declaratively in the Git repositories, and then Argo CD continuously synchronizes the desired state, which means that your VPCs, your Kubernetes namespaces, your networking policies, your applications are version controlled and deployed automatically. Right? So this is really true infrastructure as code for the private cloud.
Yeah, so from networking perspective, VPC integrates seamlessly with Kubernetes and VCFA consumption. So when you create a vSphere namespace, which is typically our application sandbox, it can be mapped to a VPC. And there the networking is abstracted within the VPC framework and making it very easy to consume. So they get the connectivity, they get the auto-scaling, the security that they need in order to deploy their microservice architectures.
Just like magic. All right. But I also hear that, customers also, they often ask, hey, I'm used to using AWS or Azure VPCs. How does VCF compare?
Yeah, that's a great question, Taka. Simply, VCF9 brings the same VPC consumption model to your private cloud, right? So you get the simplicity and the self-service of the public cloud that many folks are used to, with the control and the security and cost predictability of the on-premises infrastructure.
Yeah, plus there's consistency. With VCF, your networking policy, security control, operational tools, they work the same, whether you're on-premise in your data center, in a sovereign cloud, or in a partner operating VCF. So you're not learning a different networking paradigm for different clouds. And unlike public cloud, this is your cloud, where you have control and you can optimize for your specific performance requirements.
This sounds really compelling, guys. All right, last question. How easy is it for existing VMware customers to get started with VCF9 and VPCs?
Super easy. And VCF9 introduces a new quick start app and unified installer that deploys the entire stack, compute, storage, networking, automation, and operations in a very streamlined process. As we kind of alluded to earlier, VPCs are available out of the box. There's no need to configure anything extra or set up any connections between automation and NSX like we've done in the past. And what we've found is that existing customers with vSphere and NSX will find the interface quite intuitive, right? Especially in the vCenter where the VPCs are now visible and manageable, as Tomas talked about earlier.
Yeah, so strategically, this is the future of private cloud networking. VCF9 positions VPC as the recommended consumption model going forward, and whether you're deploying traditional enterprise application, modern application, cloud native microservices, or AI workload, VPCs is there to provide the networking foundation with the right balance of simplicity for the users and control for IT.
Awesome. Thank you guys both. So just to summarize, it sounds like VCF9 transforms private cloud networking from the traditional ticket-driven infrastructure-centric model to much more of a self-service DevOps-centric model or an approach using these or leveraging these VPCs. And so this is going to really empower developers with public cloud-like simplicity and help them accelerate application delivery through GitOps and Kubernetes integration, and at the same time maintaining that governance and control that the enterprises require. So it sounds like for anyone that's ready to modernize their private cloud, VCF9 is the platform.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah,
Awesome.
that's right.
Great. All right. Thanks, Arkady and Thomas. It was a pleasure speaking with you guys again.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. All right. And for our listeners today, hope you all liked this episode. Please do join us for our next one. This is your host, Taka Uenishi, signing off. Have an awesome week and see you until next time. Bye.